May I have your attention, please? My name is Randy Anderson. I'm the president of the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming tonight as we unveil our exhibit to Shane Conlan. The purpose of this exhibit is to commemorate Shane's being inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame 1 week from tonight, and more importantly, to honor and pay tribute to his parents, Dan and Kay. We're so thankful that they can be here tonight with us. The idea for doing this exhibit to Shane and tribute to Dan and Kay came from Scott Kinbert, the assistant sports editor at the Jamestown Post-Journal, as well as a gentleman by the name of Chris Olson. Chris Olson is a lawyer and involved in the film industry in California. His association with the Sports Hall of Fame is that his father, as well as his stepfather, are both inductees of our Sports Hall of Fame.
Really cool.
Front and back. And then we've left a space. We're going to have him sign a piece of paper that we're going to stick into that space.
That's amazing.
I thought that was a pretty neat picture.
That is neat.
That is really something. I never saw any of these.
Yeah. That's, you're going to sign that corner. You're going to sign that corner. So we grabbed as many of your cards as we could find. And then on the back,
That's so cool.
we took photographs of We're calling this a conversation with the Conlans, and particularly with Dan and Kay. Scott, longtime friend of the family, is going to lead the conversation. And the way it's going to work is Scott's going to tell a couple of stories that he remembers from his years of associations with the family. And then he's going to maybe prod something out of Kay or something out of Dan. We'll see how that part goes. But at least we'll get Scott sharing some of his remembrances.
Well, and you're welcome. Some of you would have some stories. I know Mr. Cass has wherever he is. He's got a few.
We don't have enough film.
He's been known to embellish a time or two, Shane.
He has one or two.
Shane, the question I had for you, though, to start it off is, when we had lunch in August in your hometown, or where you live now, I remember you saying how honored you were and humbled to be selected to the College Football Hall of Fame. But the thing that you most appreciated was the fact that your mom and dad could enjoy that moment a week from today. Could you just talk about, I can anticipate your answer, but what it means to be able to have your family at the, when you're being recognized for your accomplishment?
Well, I think just throughout my career, I've had a lot of good ups and downs, more ups than downs. So I like to, obviously this is a sharing thing, which it's great. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that, I'm a College Football Hall of Famer, but for some reason, it means more to me for everyone else. My family, my kids, my parents, my brothers, and cousins, and everything else. It just, I guess. Sister.
I leave this for Dan and Kate. What's more fun, watching Shane play in a national championship game or having your grandson approaching a national championship game in a week or two? Dan, go ahead.
You mean Shane's son?
Yeah.
Well, they're both great athletes, and of course, now it's a sign of getting older when my own grandson's playing in a championship game. And I still get keyed up at these games, I don't sleep the night before, and I walk the sidelines. In the old days, I'd have to have a couple of Manhattans on Friday night so I could sleep, because everybody was out to get Shane, They have banners that ran off, to get them, take them out of the game, Oh, and I had the worst headache on Saturday morning.
Well, but I understand correct me if I'm wrong, that you appreciated the trips down to Happy Valley much more than you did watching him play professionally. Is that right?
That's true.
Tell me why. What was the...
Oh, I don't know. The tempo of the college football is so much better than pros, you know. You ever got drunks in front of you and guys mooning and all that stuff, you know. And it's just a better atmosphere, you know. That's why I enjoyed it.
Well, I remember when Shane was drafted, I think most people had left. I don't think you guys anticipated, what, 75, 80 people descending on Carroll Street?
I didn't.
Yeah, but I remember that day most people had left, and I found you in your living room. We'd come upstairs, and you were very emotional. I mean, not to the point where you were sobbing, but I could tell that was such a meaningful.
Well, it probably was at the time. It was a long time ago. I hardly remember it.
But what do you remember about that day?
A full house in a small Cape Cod house, you know, a full basement and the media fans out there and stuff. It was a big thing, you know. Well, you know, it could have been Charles Manson's house or something like that, you know, but so I was very impressed. I'm just a little country boy, you know, Salamanca. It was very impressive.
The only one we wanted there was you.
Well, I got dropped off actually because I knew there wasn't going to be a place to park, and I looked and I said, my goodness, there's I think every news TV station, newspaper in Western New York and Pennsylvania was there.
I
So
don't know how they.
Yeah, because you invited me.
I
I
did.
had nothing to do with it. I don't know, why are these people
I had
doing
nothing to do with it.
Okay, there's one story I have to tell though. In 1986, January 1st, I was at the Orange Bowl, but because I didn't regularly cover Penn State, I'd come down for a couple games. But I couldn't get a press credential, so I got a ticket. So I was sitting in the Orange Bowl, and you and the rest of your family were down a little bit lower, but I rendezvoused with you after the game. Now my vehicle was parked in somebody's yard. Now the Orange Bowl is not in a very nice section of Miami. So I was praying that my rental would still be there. But Kay Conlan rode shotgun with me to the Fontainebleau Hotel. Now I was young. I was 24 years old. So I'm thinking, oh, no big deal. I'm riding with the mother, the star of the team. I'm going right to the hotel. But it just dawned on me the other day. I ended up in Shane's suite at the Fontainebleau. How many reporters have access to the stars? If Paterno walked in, and did you ever think about that, what you were doing? You're getting your son in trouble, and I might have been in jail.
I don't think about that.
But anyway, she was provided direction to the Fontainebleau, and we just pushed the elevator and went up to whatever floor your room was on, and I interviewed Shane in his suite so I could file my story for the next day. And not too many families, especially now, can you imagine a reporter following, a player? So that's just another example of the Conlan's hospitality and friendship, and 30 years almost, hard to believe. Now I got to ask each one of the siblings questions. Kelly, do you remember your boys? Now you have two boys, right? And I know you have your daughter too, but they were only like what, 5, 6 years old?
They were younger than that, maybe 3.
Because I found pictures, I don't know if your mom showed them to you, of them dressed in their Bills gear.
Yeah, that was the one that was on the front page of the Buffalo News, I think.
It might have been,
Remember that?
yeah.
We went up when he was, what was that day when they signed
The
him?
day after the.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It was-
she had each one of.
Yeah, I remember that vividly because I don't know if your mom and dad remember, but they were kind enough to ask me to join you guys on the trip up there because, Shane, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you have a golf date the day of the draft at South Hills?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so you didn't want any part of that media section, right?
No, well, we went outside, John, remember, Mike and Kevin, when it got announced, so we were playing
Right.
basketball, yeah, I just had to get out of there.
Yeah. So, anyway, I show up at the Conlan's house on Carroll Street the next day to go up about 11 o'clock.
Rate higher than Shane. They might be faster, they might be stronger. And you wonder what makes a person become a professional athlete. How did he excel? You know, sometimes the professional athletes, their calves are actually bigger than their forearms or their biceps. That was a joke, Shane. So, but anyways, it's kind of interesting if you think about it. And I would say that the whole thing comes down to really a couple words. And that's, you know, attitude and family. You know, ever since we grew up, we knew that Shane was going to be a professional athlete. He always told us that he was going to play in the NFL. And so we were excited, but not really surprised when he ended up in the NFL. And you can see he's out shooting baskets when they do the draft. He gets drafted #1. Oh, I forgot to tell you. When we were down to Mountain Shadow Resort, that was the place, and I think it was the day before, and before the biggest game of Shane's career at that time, and we were going to go out, and they would only let us into the bars if you had good shoes, and Kevin only had gym shoes, so we had to get shoes, and so we went to Shane's place, and we threw stuff against the door until he came out at like midnight. You remember, to get the shoes for Kevin, which were size 12s or whatever. Kevin said, "Where's a pair of 9?" And Shane's roommates all were mad and everything. And Shane's like, "This is the biggest game of my life. What are you doing waking us up?" We're like, "Shane, they're not going to let us in without shoes on. Get us some shoes. This is important." Priority. But the coolest part was, to Shane, family. Family was what was important. So the guys that were sleeping with him were mad and swearing at us, and Shane just got the shoes and let us take them and go. Just like the time when we went down to the Orange Bowl down in Florida, and you remember this one, they moved everybody out of the Fontainebleau the day before the game. So Shane gave us the keys to his rent-a-car and the keys to the suite. And Kevin, Sam, and I moved in there the night before, staying at the Fontainebleau, and Danny and Kay, you remember those? Oh my gosh, stories and stories. And one time also when we were at the Fiesta Bowl, and Shane was there, of course, and he's the big star at the Fiesta Bowl. And one day by the pool, I bet you Kevin Conlan signed 50 autographs. And when we told Danny that he had signed 50 autographs, you know, Danny said, "You better check them and make sure they're spelled right." I could tell you stories about us going to Minnesota to the Super Bowls and Miami to the Super Bowls and all the different places and all the fun we had. But back to where I was. So we knew in high school that Shane was going to play in the NFL. And all the way back into 7th, 8th grade, he told us that. As you know, Frewsburg has a tradition of signing yearbooks. And most other schools do, and you write in it. Well, I can remember Shane would always sign the yearbooks. Best wishes, Shane Conlan, number 34 or whatever. And I'd say, "Shane, why would you do that?" He says, "I'm practicing, so when I get into the NFL." and you know what's funny, because it's really it was his attitude that we knew that he was going to succeed. And you know, as he made it in as All-Pro, it was exciting, but we knew it was going to happen. When he was the defensive Rookie of the Year, we knew he was going to make it. It was exciting. And, you know, his family, they lived every hit with him, every success, every, as Shane said, every up and every down. And I know you could see how the game was, because even in high school, if it was a bad game or someone got beat up a little bit, oh, Shane or Kay was all worked up, couldn't hardly sleep that night, and Danny's pacing up and down the sidelines, but I actually pulled out my yearbook, Shane, today, and I looked at some of the older ones, and Shane Conlan, best wishes, and you had the attitude of a champion, the attitude to succeed. You know, your family was behind you every step of the way. I think it's wonderful that you can all be here together to remember some of these stories. I could regale you with story after story after story about the first day Kevin Conlan came home from Edinburgh, and he said to Mikey, "Mike, I'm going to have to make you cry. I haven't been home in a while." So I wrestled with Mike. Broke one bone or two bones, Mike? Two bones. The day he came home. And how they used to play basketball in a side yard, and it wasn't a foul unless you bled. And the Conlan family, and when I say the Conlan family, I think of Kevin, Shane, and Sam, and Mikey, and of course Kelly was a little bit older and the only girl, and so she was kind of the, she was always kind of the soothing force behind him, just like Kay. And it was funny also because I told the story earlier to Scott Kinberg that Shane would win these beautiful watches and these rings and everything, and as soon as he would get them, Danny would take him and put him in one of his hiding spots. Kevin, of course, knew where the hiding spots were.
Yeah, I got one of them. The cold air return. I saved. The cold air return.
And and Sam said, "Oh, I got one of those watches," and the rings and everything. Probably Shane doesn't have any of those watches.
No, I don't have any.
Do you have any of those rings or any of the watches?
I got some rings.
But you had, those were lots of beautiful watches. The Aloha Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl. Do you still have those
They're
watches?
still in the cold air return.
But I just wanted to say congratulations to you, Shane.
Thanks.
I mean, you and your family is part of my family. We love you all, and we're so excited for you. And it's so really great to see Mom and Dad and to hear the stories.
Thanks.
I don't know if anybody else would like to add something, but I've been doing this gig here at the newspaper for 32 years, and this family is probably the #1 in my book because, you know, for all the successes, and you know, you hear stories about athletes that often aren't flattering, but every experience I've had with these two to my right have been awesome, and they've extended that. You know, their kids are all been great, and so it's been an honor, and I'm just glad that you can share that next week. What a cool thing that'll be in New York. And Shane, you don't have to give a speech.
No, it's awesome.
Anybody else have anything they would like to share or have a question, or anybody?
Okay, how did you keep the boys from killing each other? It's basically the question.
I didn't.
You didn't?
And Sam are in the locker room. And we're hanging out in the locker room, and it's all over. We're just kind of hanging out. In comes Vinny Testaverde. Kevin's beautiful, man. He pulls out his camera like this. This is the game. Kevin watches Vinny come in. Watches him talk to Shane. Shane and Vinny shake. They talk. Kevin keeps watching him. Goes a little bit. Vinny leaves. Kevin never takes a picture. I said, Kevin, what are you doing? He said, I'm on a film. And I also remember the time, so I'll tell you a little bit of it, Sam. So Kevin gets a picture, and we're in one of the rooms, and there were like 5 or 6 of us, and Kevin and I are sleeping on the floor until George would leave, and Sam comes out of the shower, and we kind of line him up behind a mirror and take a picture of him. So the mirror was bad. You could see the rest of him on the back side of the mirror. We took the pictures of the film, and Sam was kind of posing this way, and the mirror's in the back. And we took the pictures, and we forgot all about it until we sent them off to get them developed, and they came home, and I heard that familiar voice from Kay. Kevin Michael Conlan. What have you done with these pictures? Remember that, Kay?
Do you still have them?
I think I do.
What are some of the other stories, Danny?
Well, that's all the ones I remember.
How about what about all the Super Bowls?
What
You have a
about?
favorite?
Oh, Super Bowl?
We didn't win any of them.
That's right.
I couldn't have a whole lot of.
Second place rings, I guess. Minneapolis, man, I've never been so cold in all my life. I'm telling you, that was, the buses, everything was cold. It was
One of the
lost.
cool things when we went to the, remember how when we went to California, where they kept the players and the families in a special room till just before the game started? I don't know if Shane, you ever remember this. So anyways, what happened, of course, Shane would have been at the game, and we were in California at the Orange Bowl, right?
Rose Bowl.
The Rose Bowl. And they had a special room for the families and everybody. And then we're looking at our watches and we're like, we got to get to the game. We got to get to the game. And everybody, they load us onto the buses. Do you remember this? And they closed off the freeways and the police cars and the motorcycles are riding along next to us. You remember that? Am I the only one that was there?
No, I wasn't there. I wasn't there.